Meteorologist Casey Cloud coming to you late on this Friday afternoon right now because there is a lightning delayed award at FSU Baseball's NCAA regional game there against Bethune-Cookman. I know the Seminoles and the Wildcats in the third inning there. And as we're looking at things in toward that one, the Noles tied at 2, and then getting lightning there in the region, according to FSU Weather Sim, there around 3:51 to 3:53. There were 3 cloud to cloud lightning strikes within 8 miles. 2 of them about 8 miles away. One was only about 4 miles away at 3:53. So I know we have that delay, and unfortunately, this is probably going to be something that continues to be a problem. You see more action coming from the west. In fact, this storm is actually getting pretty strong now in the Bluntstown area. Quite a bit of lightning showing up with it and a hook on that. So we'll have to watch. There's not much rotation within the storm relative velocity yet, so that's good. But we do have a risk of severe weather here. So we have to be mindful. I know we're live on the different platforms, Facebook there, YouTube, Twitch. I know Twitter's having some type of issue there. I was trying to make sure we're live on that, but it is giving us some issues. I think you can kind of get to this on there, but as we're looking at things right now, just continuing to watch the weather picture. This could be something that continues to be a problem here with the delays, for the rest of the day. And now as we get later in the war that weekend, things will really clear out and we'll get some drier air in here. It'll at least feel a little cooler. The air temperature will be a little cooler as well, but it won't be as big of a difference on the thermometer that it actually is in terms of how you feel. So again, just the situation that we're watching here this afternoon is a broadened view. I know you see a severe thunderstorm watch to the north. There's a severe thunderstorm warning in the Orlando area to the south. In fact, that's a pretty nasty cluster there of storms. We had a gust there to 60 miles an hour around the Orlando International Airport, 63 to be precise there at 3:50 p.m. I think that warning got issued right after that. So it actually kind of happened ahead of that. And we also had an EF0 tornado yesterday. Late afternoon there. Unfortunately, it was not a tornado warning. It was a severe thunderstorm warning, though, with a tornado possible tag there in the north part of St. Johns County, 85-mile-an-hour max winds on that. And we had a deadly tornado this morning in Kentucky, popping on up there. Not much of a risk of severe weather, but along a warm front, along a boundary there, and things started twisting and disaster struck there. Also had a tornado touchdown south of the Atlanta, downtown area there yesterday afternoon. That was significant too. So, causing some major damage there. Kind of the Atlanta metro region per se there. But as we're kind of looking at things right now, let's see the overall risk for today. There's a marginal risk for, everybody that's not under something higher. A lot of us, but then there's a slight risk of 2 out of 5 in the yellow, further up into Georgia, and then enhanced as you're getting up toward like the Carolina region. I know UF was able to get their baseball game in there in Conway, South Carolina, and the Conway regional. They lost to East Carolina 11-6 there, 11-6 as we were looking up that way. You see a bunch of watches, a bunch of college baseball being disrupted by these storms here. As we're looking at things, you see the tornado watch in the broad, shaded yellow area there. And then the thunderstorm watch in the pink shaded area. So just have to be continuing to be mindful here of the overall weather scenario as we're looking at things. I know we're continuing to see FSU strong, of course, after what happened last month, but now also some more sad news today for the FSU community. The president of FSU, for much of the time when I was there, and when I graduated there, John Thrasher, passing away at the age of 81. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family during this very difficult time. Former FSU president John Thrasher passing away there. Just another day of sadness here for the FSU community, as we are trying to stay FSU strong. The very important baseball game there toward Tallahassee against Bethune-Cookman there. The Wildcats from Daytona Beach, they're used to weather delays, with that weather environment down there along the coast, the East Coast. But We're used to them for FSU, my Seminoles as well, as we're continuing to monitor things here, track the situation. Of course, circling back there to John Thrasher, who was the FSU president from 2014 to 2021. And I know he, when he first started there is when we had the FSU Strozer Library shooting, and he helped guide the FSU community through that. Getting another terrible day with him passing away at 81 years old. But again, we're watching the weather situation around Tallahassee, continuing to track some of the FSU weather stem lightning data here. Just trying to get an idea on what's going on with the overall situation, the overall scenario here. That lightning, I know, can be dangerous. They always have to take precautions to the NCAA officials in these type of situations. I know, from what I kind of surmise here, it's more, on the NCAA deciding these delays here than it would be like in the regular season. Different, maybe the ACC, or also just in general, the schools can kind of decide. But it's just playoffs now. It's tied up in the third inning there at 2. So that's kind of where we're at with that. As I'm continuing to look at the latest information here in the Weather Center, just trying to kind of get an idea of what's going on here and the like, as things do develop, as things do, occur here. Just important. I know ACC Network now showing, looks like, unless they're on the whip around covered, at least at the moment it looks like they're showing an alternative game there. NC State and Stetson, they had weather problems up there at the Auburn Regional, but that's underway in the top of the first inning now. And this continuing to track things here, though, in the ward, the Weather Center, keeping an eye on the weather scenario there toward Tallahassee. Let me go ahead and kind of keep looking here at more information. Bear with me here as we're trying to do all this on the fly, obviously. I might try to pull up some traffic cameras. The rain really isn't the factor right now toward Tallahassee. It's the lightning in the area. This is obviously a problem, so just have to be mindful of that here as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things. So again, just trying to give you guys the very latest on exactly what is happening. The very latest on exactly what is happening. I know they are really having problems on Twitter right now. It looks like, goodness, I'm just looking here. Again, the X platform. I tried to send out another stream, but it looks like just everything is glitching here in terms of different tweets of mine, and everybody's just coming across really odd. So I know if you're trying to watch over there, we're also on YouTube. We're also, on Facebook there. Let me go ahead and remind you guys of the platforms that I'm on here for everybody that's wanting to know as we're tracking things here and giving you guys the very latest. In case there's ever a problem with any of these, you have other alternative ways here to watch the cover. I know about almost a half hour since they went into delay. If it was deemed to be a little bit better situation in terms of the weather, if things were clearing up, then maybe you only need a half hour delay for the lightning there, and then don't have any in the radius, so you can start back. But I'm not sure they would do that here in this situation. I know there was one pitch into the bottom of the third inning, and then the weather situation arose there. So yeah, Twitter is trying to look at some information, and things are just kind of not show up here and the like. So continuing to give you guys the very latest information this afternoon on things. always tricky when there's electricity in the area there on the Doppler technology. You always gotta err on the side of caution. You gotta get everybody out of those stands. I mean, you have metal around, which definitely can be problematic. I mean, not that I recall recently as much. We've had problems, but years ago, people have like lost their life at high school football games and the like that I can remember here, because of the electricity there. I mean, even go overseas, I know I've seen videos on social media and the like of folks, soccer especially, players getting struck by lightning and losing their life on the field, even in some of those overseas. But that's why it's so important to be mindful of the weather scenario. You gotta always stay weather aware. You always gotta stay weather alert. I know another factor with this lightning delay, it could really mess up, the pitching there for FSU. Really mess up their pitching as we're looking at the situation. Joey Bellini going for the Knowles, but that, depending on how long this delay is, they might not, want to try to start them back, and then that can mess up your whole weekend. That can cost FSU, shot at moving on, and, stuff like that over the years can cost, a team like FSU in a more weather vulnerable area this time of year. That can cost you a national championship, which FSU hasn't got, unfortunately. And even Florida over the years, I know today weather didn't necessarily impact that game, but over the years, Florida has actually had, really good baseball teams. And a lot of them haven't gone as far as you would have expected. They did win one national title, but a lot of their teams haven't gone near as far as you would anticipate. And I got to wonder if the Lightning in Gainesville and causing delays down there over the years has played a role, and them not getting as much success as you would think, because your pitchers, it kind of changes the routine around. And it's something they, like you have to deal with it more, but then it messes up your whole order for the whole game, and maybe, games down the line. That's the thing. It has a ricochet, cascading effect there. As we're continuing to give you guys the very latest. I mean, I've suggested it on here before, and this is probably not in the budget, but, it would be nice if FSU somehow could end up, getting maybe some type of indoor facility for baseball. I know it's not something that's really prevalent in college, but, it's something to kind of bear in mind here. Bear in mind as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the overall situation. I mean, it'd be something that'd be really helpful, obviously, for FSU, and, maybe preventing you at home those delays. Darker skies starting to come in there. I'm sure they're not going to be starting that game back up anytime soon. We're not going to talk to this forever. We'll just leave this up as the delay continues if it starts to become more prolonged. But warning is jump in here. Of course, we get severe weather warnings, and we'll have to, do things a little bit different here, and probably just do, our standard severe weather covered, maybe switch to a different stream. But just continuing to check everything here. Continuing to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. Just trying to stay on top of the weather scenario. So at about 4:27, there was a cloud-to-cloud strike 8.1 miles away from Doak Camel Stadium. So, about the same as where Dick Howser Stadium is. And then 4:29, just a little under 9 miles. I don't think they're going to be starting this back with them being that close there, to 8 miles. This accent coming on in. This could be a while here. You just got at this point, you got to hope this isn't something that stretches all the way into tomorrow, where FSU could be, and other teams could be forced to have to maybe play, multiple games. Mississippi State and Northeastern in the regional may have to play multiple games in one day, because the weather is going to be a lot better coming up, tomorrow. But it's looking iffy here as we continue on in the timeline in the hours to come. So you just got to hope they can get this in here as we're looking at the scenario, as we're looking at the situation. Let's take you to this view here, Chieftain Way and Pensacola Street. Now you're going to see the vehicles in the parking area more than anything from this. I'll see if I can get one of the sky here. That's what we really need. But I'll pull this one up as we're looking, as we're tracking. Just trying to keep you informed. You don't see necessarily any rain here or much activity in the parking lot right now. Some activity on the road there and the intersection of Chieftain Way and Pensacola Street, though. By the way, I know the game that they're showing in lieu of the FSU Bethune-Cookman game on the ACC network is Stetson. They're playing in Auburn against NC State. And Stetson up 4-0 in the top of the first inning against ACC school NC State. So that's the storyline there in college baseball. That's the game they're showing in lieu of the FSU game, which could end up being in a delay for a while. So let me go ahead and keep looking here at the information. Move away from that. I'm trying to keep you up to date. It's so important to stay on top of everything here in toward the Weather Center. We're just trying to get you guys all the updates that we can as things develop here minute by minute. Again, just monitoring things. I'm just trying to stay on top of all of it. I'm going to try to get us a look at the sky here. Bear with me. Some of the cameras aren't working here this afternoon, unfortunately, in that area. Going to go a little bit further out toward the west end and just kind of say the overall weather picture. Now, this is pointed east, so it's not going to say you really everything, but at least it shows you some of the darker skies. This is actually looking more back toward the stadium, but they're not necessarily getting the worst of it there, at the stadium. So, see if we can get a look west or north here. That's what we need. I can't control these cameras. These are Florida 511 views of the situation. We'll see some of the active weather. Capital Circle northwest at I-10 north will actually just show you some of the precip. This is not at FSU, but a little bit further off toward the north and the west there. Kind of telling that story. And by the way, if they were even thinking about trying to get going there, again, they're having to reset that clock another 30 minutes because we just had at 4:34, 1 minute ago, a lightning strike a little under 5 miles from the stadium. It's cloud to cloud, but any of those, could end up being subsequent strikes that are cloud to ground. So you just got to be mindful of that. But so that's going to be at least until after 5 at the very earliest that they can get this underway. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking things here in toward the weather centers. Thank you so much for tuning in here on this Friday, on this May 30th, 2025. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in toward the weather center. Just trying to give you guys the very latest updates on exactly what is happening here. Always these weather delays there. The NCAA tournament games, toward Florida. I know around Tallahassee, Gainesville when they have them there. I know last year was a lot better than normal. I actually went last year, partly because of the weather forecast looking, it was hot, but, for that first game against Stetson, but in terms of those temperatures, but at least the weather wasn't, really a huge factor. A little bit of accident got moved around, but this could be just a extremely long day here. I know tomorrow, and Sunday things will be better, but not necessarily today. Again, continuing to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. I am live on Twitter/X, but it is having a lot of problems here. Things are not really coming across very well on my end. But again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here in this situation. So, let me go ahead and keep looking here. Look at more of the cameras behind the scenes. This storm here in Liberty County. A little bit of wind enhancement. It's not severe though. It went to about 40 with it, and then lightning. Though that's gonna, that's only moving 35 miles an hour. So let's go ahead and go to another perspective here. It's not an exactly ideal situation. This is another hour. This storm here, it might take another hour to pass by, even if it doesn't really go over the field, and you don't want it to go over that. The tarp out, then that'll help with things, but still, you don't want it to go over the field and make things damp out there. But whether it does or not, that's probably going to get us delayed at least till 5:30, and then you have to count for 30 minutes after that. So that's at least 6 o'clock probably. The next game was going to be scheduled to start there at 7:30ish, but not probably going to happen now. Mississippi State Northeastern. As we go ahead and continue to look at the situation here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of broaden things. You see a new Pacific thunderstorm watch toward those coastal areas further off toward the east now, getting all the way until 11 o'clock tonight. It appeared all the way to the coast there, through Savannah, just north of a viewing area now. So that's just coming down here with the very latest, obviously. So. But yeah, this is just going to be continuing to be a lingering issue in Quitman County, Georgia now. I know we're watching some action in that area. Let me go ahead and pull up our other mode. So you have a special weather statement up there. We have 40-mile-an-hour winds possible in that vicinity. What I want to see you now, though, I want to get some model guidance up. I'm going to take off the current lightning. Okay, so that's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7. You see it all hanging around Tallahassee. If this wasn't, an NCAA regional, it might be a situation where you just end up thinking about putting this off to tomorrow. They may still do that, but it'd be best for everybody not to do that, because that's a mess having to play so many games in one day possibly. That really squeezes things in the calendar and in the schedule there. And that'd be problematic for all 4 teams involved, really. Not an ideal situation. And we're going to zoom in on the model guidance toward Tallahassee here. Some of these storms could end up turning severe ultimately as we're looking at things. So this is going to be, again, this is 4. I know that's where we're at now in the timeline. And You see the accent. I mean, this is, let's see here, 6 o'clock, 7. I need to zoom out just a little bit so you can see the view. I mean, maybe stuff gets away far enough from Tallahassee to get some of the ball game in there. And then you see more coming from the northwest by 8 o'clock, and then 9, 10, and then maybe 11. I mean, I don't know how late they can, start the game back. I mean, if I'm FSU, I push at all costs, pretty much. I mean, you're trying to win. And I would think you would, if you're FSU, you'd want to go ahead and get your game. I mean, it may not be your decision, but as I say, NCAA may be in charge of that. But if I'm FSU, I'm going to try to get that game in here today. And then you can have, it's probably going to be a situation where it'd be impossible to get the other game in today, Mississippi State Northeastern. And then you can let them start out early tomorrow and then have the elimination game a little after that. And then maybe a third game there later on in the day, late in the day, and then get back on schedule. That'd be probably the best case scenario at this point, is to get one game in today there. The FSU Bethune-Cookman game, and then you just have to play Mississippi State Northeastern tomorrow, which, then, I mean, it's a tricky situation because the NCAA has to take into account how that would hurt the second and third seed really in the bracket more than it probably would hurt FSU, assuming FSU does win. But it only is 2-2. It's tied up right now, and anything could happen, obviously, in the NCAA tournament. We've seen that in basketball. You can see it in baseball. I mean, Coastal Carolina won in 2016, the whole thing, which was impossible, really. I believe Fresno State won it years ago as well, which is very, very unlikely. So you just never know what can happen in college baseball, the NCAA tournament. It's with FSU having so many chances at it and never winning it. Partly, though, could be because of all the lightning, that's occurred over the years that sets you off schedule. And in baseball, it's about, routine. It's about schedule. And, Mike Martin, the late, great Mike Martin, he did his very best here for the FSU community, but it's just, then you have a lightning delay, and that messes your pitching routine up, and that just sets everything off schedule. I mean, it's not the whole reason, obviously, but it could be a factor, and it would be nice I know it's probably not feasible in the budget, but it would be nice if FSU could eventually get an indoor baseball stadium. What I mean by that is it would be one with a retractable roof. So, that'd be nice. I don't think it's going to probably happen in the budget, but I don't know if any other, college teams have it. I know they have them in the pros. Texas Ranger Stadium, a good example there in Arlington, Texas, where they can play, with the roof closed, indoor situation, or they can play outdoors there, with that roof open. But, that's what you would want, a mini version of that there in the Ward Tallahassee, and the best case scenario of the budget. But I'm a big Seminole fan. I know, UF, they built a new stadium recently. They didn't put a roof on it, so it's be very hard to get the money for that. But maybe in a big FSU donor will end up, being able to get that one day. Maybe they'll win the lottery or something along those lines, and give that to FSU there, and be able to have that, and be able to, I did a story when I was at FSU. I know for football, the first year their indoor practice facility, they won a national title, 2013. So maybe your first year with the baseball, if you ever can get an indoor actual stadium there, retractable roof, multi-purpose. You can use it for some other sports at times as well, other events on campus, and maybe you'll, hopefully we'll win it before then, but if not, maybe we'll win the national title, and that'll be great news. But you see a lot of lightning hanging around. This is not going to happen here anytime soon with this game. It's just going to stay in a delay here. It's pretty obvious as we're looking at the perspective. You see all that electrical energy popping on up there. Whether it's a cloud to ground or cloud to excuse me, I can't talk, but cloud to cloud or cloud to ground, they're gonna, just keep this in a delay, I'm sure, for a while. I mean, gonna be lucky, in some ways. There's with the way the policies are, you have to be extra careful. There's a chance they may not even, be able to get this game finished today. If it's just too late, they may just say, never mind. I mean, this is really, really, really strengthening, by the way, with the lightning around there last few minutes, just since we've been talking. Look at all that. So went on up. We've just had numerous strikes there in the last 5 minutes or so. indoor that area that are very close. This is really something. You do not need to be hanging around in the stands. I don't know if anybody is. I don't have a visual on Dick Howser Stadium, but everybody needs to be, in a spot, because this is a situation where you could get struck by lightning. That's how dangerous this is becoming now. This is becoming a real scenario. I mean, I remember 2015 lightning delay in football. FSU playing there, early on. I think it was the opener, and you could kind of tell there's a delay for safety reasons, but it's probably not going to come. The lightning probably is far enough away to be, an okay situation for the fans. This time around, it's becoming, you need to get, we've just had strikes within a mile. You need to make sure you are not exposed there in those bleachers. We could have yet another tragedy toward FSU. I mean, I hate to say it, we've already had so much, sadness there, of course, last month, and now with the news of former President John Thrasher passing away at 81. A lot of them are going to cloud to cloud strikes. If you have one cloud to ground strike in that stadium, we could really have a problem on our hands. We got to make sure people are taking this very seriously. Toward FSU, this is not a severe storm, but lightning can be deadly and has proven to be deadly. Though I will say that's a pretty nasty wind signature now. I was thinking about wrapping, but we're gonna have to stay with this here. We need to stay with this because of what is developing. This may need I think they need to issue a warning. I don't think there's an advisory on this here. Did they just issue one? Let me see. It's not showing. Okay, they did issue one. Okay, I see it now. The 40 on the winds. They did issue it. Okay. It was a few minutes ago, but this is really strengthening. This may get a warning here. This is headed right there in that area, too. So let's get some of the traffic cameras up here. I mean, shouldn't be like what we had last year with the tornado actually hitting the stadium. Nobody was, necessarily in it. They weren't definitely not playing ball at that point last year. When we had the tornado there. This is starting to get close to needing a warning now, right toward there. It's rapidly intensifying here, right toward campus. So this is becoming more of a, watch, and you have to take precautions. You need to take precaution right now toward this area. This could cause, somebody to get struck by lightning here. That's what we're talking about right now. Take precaution. This storm is rapidly strengthening here toward campus. If it wasn't for all the people outdoors, I wouldn't, be talking it up like this, obviously. But with so many people outdoors, this could be, a bad situation here. So we just have to go ahead and get them inside. You need to be away from windows here immediately as we're looking at this, as we're tracking things. Not a good set of circumstances at all now. I know I'm really, kind of hoping we can get these cameras to be adjusted so we can see the sky, but let me just go ahead and see what we have on this view right now. On this viewpoint here right now. You see that wind right there. This is right there in the stadium area. Wind's really picking up. By the way, there's a tornado warning in South Carolina now until 5:15. Calhoun, Clarendon, and Sumter counties. This, if you guys are wondering, but we're tracking this storm around Tallahassee. I see people walking around. I see people walking around here. And this could be dangerous. This could be dangerous. The electrical energy here in the environment with lightning strikes within a mile of the stadium here. We're getting multiple. It is 4:50. We've had 3 in the last, 3 minutes that have been within a mile here. And one of those at 4:48 was a ground strike. Actually, lightning striking the ground here within a mile of the stadium area. I'm talking, my tracker has it from the football stadium, but they're right together. Obviously, if you know about FSU, and folks running there because of the traffic, but still, as we're kind of looking here, they need to probably be, getting out of harm's way from the lightning as well here. This has become a dangerous situation now. with this scenario toward Tallahassee. It's just escalated a little bit with all that lightning there showing up. This is, becoming a situation where you really got to take heed right now there toward the campus area. This is something you can't be hanging around in the stands in this type of weather. This is extremely dangerous with that lightning there. I know. Questions about softball. I think they just issued a warning, by the way. They did. Okay, so they issued a severe thunderstorm warning now for Tallahassee till 5:45. I know. Questions about softball. I know Oklahoma City, they had some issues yesterday out that way, and that'll be something that they'll, need to keep watching for at times. As we're looking out there, FSU, of course, not in that, but not in the Women's College World Series, but there's going to be more of a rest tomorrow from maybe 4 p.m. Saturday to 8 a.m. Sunday out that way, according to the office there today. It actually should be clear for that, accident there in Oklahoma City. But we have a warning now, so we need to go ahead and we need to take this, out a little bit and talk it as if this is, our weather cover, not just baseball stream type coverage. So let me go ahead and change a couple things up here real quick. Let me go ahead and change. This has very rapidly become severe here. This environment, there's a chance in this environment things could do this, and that's what we're seeing now. At 4:50, a severe thunderstorm was located over Tallahassee State College, moving east at 20 miles an hour. Southeastern Gadsden, East Central Liberty, and Leon counties under this warning until 5:45. Tallahassee, Woodville, Tallahassee State College, Florida State University, Midway, FAMU, Doak Campbell Stadium, Dick Hauser Stadium, Lake Bradford, Leon Sinks, Gaither Community Center, Tallahassee Hospital. I'm talking about Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, but everybody in that region needs to take precautions. Tallahassee Airport, Governor Square Mall. We have a nasty, nasty storm developing right here by the radar. This will be harder to see things, but this is very, significant here with 60-mile-an-hour gusts is what has triggered this warning here. Let me see if Twitter, I need to try to get this ad over on Twitter now as we're looking at things to see if it ever came across. I think FSU has sent out an alert, but yeah, they sent out an alert here because of the danger, of the electrical energy. Stay inside. If cut outside, take shelter in a sturdy enclosed building or inside of a hardtop automobile immediately. Avoid open spaces and isolated objects. So this is a dangerous situation now toward the FSU campus with the lightning here. It's really become, extremely serious because there's so many people, thousands of people outside here, potentially caught without shelter. We just had a gust of 31 at the FSU Weather Stem site there. I know I'm checking Twitter. I don't think it ever sent out my stream here on this. I know Twitter is having all sorts of problems as we're looking at things. So let me go ahead and do something here. I'm going to try to reset it here. I know I wish there were multiple people here. I could go to a traffic camera or something while I'm doing this, but I got to get this out on Twitter. This is a very dangerous weather situation. I know we kind of talked about the lightning earlier on, but I'm just going to reset our stream on Twitter. So for our folks here watching, stand by. We'll be back in about a minute or so with more information. I'm going to turn the mic off, and we'll start back with more coverage soon. Meteorologist Casey Cloud back with you. Now we should be over on Twitter. They had a glitch for a little while, so when we started our stream earlier on, they were, not able to post that there, but I wanted to make sure, this is really serious stuff right toward campus. Numerous lightning strikes, in that mile or so radius, and we just had a gust on campus to 44 miles an hour at the weather sim site. So this is not good here, in terms of so many folks with the FSU baseball game caught without shelter potentially. Hopefully most of them were able to find that, but had a little while with the lightning delay, but this took that escalation with a severe thunderstorm warning here until 5:45. Again, a very serious weather situation right now toward Tallahassee, toward FSU. You need to take shelter here, as this is taking that escalation here. And the FSU sent an alert because they're so concerned, about this situation toward campus. A severe thunderstorm warning issued for the main campus. You got to stay inside. If caught outside, take shelter in a sturdy enclosed building or a hardtop automobile immediately. Avoid open spaces and isolated objects. This is very serious. There's FSU baseball going on. They're in a delay. Delayed it here about an hour ago, but then we had this storm escalate to where it was very volatile right toward campus here. We're going to try to pull up some camera shots to know we are trying to get things going as best we can here, but let me go ahead and see what I can get in terms of a camera shot. Some of them are down there as we're, it's just a one-man band trying to escalate, our level of coverage with the conversation here, and also give you some visuals. Let's take you live here with this one. This is right there near campus, St. Augustine Street and Varsity Street. Some very torrential activity here happening with the precipitation. So, again, this is some serious stuff. I don't mean to overhype it, but we've had a game here where so many folks are out and about, and now a very serious storm rapidly intensifying. It came right toward campus here as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things. This is not a good turn of events here at all. Toward the campus area. Again, we've been live for a while, but I know Twitter/X hadn't been displaying that. We've been on YouTube, Facebook. I just made sure once we got that warning to start another stream up on Twitter. I got it through this time, but again, we have a serious weather situation toward Tallahassee. Very volatile storm here. Warnings for Gaston, Leon, and Liberty, but we're very concerned about the campus here on FSU. I hope you found shelter here. Again, this is some serious stuff with this severe thunderstorm warning here in play. You don't have severe thunderstorm warnings very often where this many people are out and about. It's also right near rush hour, but just hope nobody's got struck by lightning here. We don't have any reports at this point, and let's hope it stays that way, because this is very serious stuff, obviously, that we're looking at, that we're tracking here in the grand scheme of things. I know, just looking gust to 44 miles an hour around campus here in the last few minutes. I mean, wasn't it, even showing you a visual of the situation when that happened, because we were trying to make sure we got on Twitter there. Once the window opened back up with Twitter to get that on, because there's a glitch going on with that this afternoon. But, we've had even worse winds than what we're showing you, I'm sure. Indoor that area, and the temperatures drop from the lower 90s into the upper 70s here. Again, a very serious situation toward the FSU campus with this active weather as we're looking at things. Let me go ahead and continue here to effort some more information as we are following things here and the like. Again, this went from, just a lightning delay to an advisory or warning pretty quick here. As we continue to track the situation, you see the warning, but then what's under here? So there's the football stadium, there's the baseball stadium, and there's a storm right there on it, right on it. I mean, these winds are pretty strong for this low on there. Not a good set of circumstances at all. Let me go ahead and see what else we might have. Just trying to effort the very latest. And I know the word of Washington, D.C., they have a tornado watch there as we're looking at the situation that is coming in. But again, still trying to give you guys the very latest on what is happening. Serious weather around Tallahassee, around FSU. This is a thunderstorm warning in effect. Again, make sure, you've gotten inside away from windows to see a gust of 32 at the airport there. But some of the stronger winds, a little bit further north, it would seem. "46 miles an hour toward campus." Yikes. Gust of 46 campus there. Again, that's very, nasty gust there out in the open for folks. And some of the strongest winds in Hermine were in the 60 range on that site there back in 2016. 60 to 70 range is what I mean by that. A lot going on is an understatement here as we're looking at things at 5:05 on this Friday here on this weather situation. I know, of course, folks in Jacksonville are monitoring things in terms of legendary WTLV and WJXX first news chief meteorologist Tim Deegan retiring here. His final newscast starting in less than an hour after 43 years on the air, so that's a big deal. But right now, we were tracking a nasty weather situation around Tallahassee. I'm trying to find out, if we've had any, ground issues in terms of if anybody's been struck by lightning with the situation there toward campus. Hopefully not. But it's always, in a situation, not impossible. So again, continuing to give you the latest. Trying to keep you informed here. Let's go back to velocity now. Let's get a little bit further from the radar site. Okay, new update on this warning. They canceled Liberty and Gadsden. It's about Leon. At 5:03, a severe thunderstorm located near Florida State University, moving east at 20 miles an hour. At Tallahassee, Woodville, Tallahassee State College, Florida State University, Dick Hauser Stadium, Doak Campbell Stadium, Florida A&M, all under this. So again, a very serious weather situation here as we continue to track. Again, we were on the other platforms here way early with the, action before we got a warning, but Twitter, I know it showed us live. You might have still been able to watch it if you saw my icon, but not much was posting for anybody on Twitter. It looked like that for a little while. So Twitter/X, but again, we're watching this now. Some of the worst of this right around US 319 now with the winds. So, it's not at all clear by any stretch, but some of the worst of the winds now look to be moving away from campus there. As we're looking at things like this, you see some of the worst of it back in there. kind of up in there. I'm just trying to keep you guys informed on the situation. At 5:08 here on this Friday. Again, not a good set of circumstances with folks out and about. Again, just checking some different things. Let's go to a broad perspective. You know, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't look as bad as it actually probably was, but I mean, you don't see a whole bunch on our local radar, but when you zoom in, you see it right there over Tallahassee. Like, really, you know, about the worst possible spot here you could have this in terms of FSU baseball. And then, you know, that's coming right across there, gusts that were upwards of 46 miles an hour on the FSU Weatherstem site. I mean, I think the worst of that storm action with the warnings behind you there, but you still got some more heavy rain and maybe more lightning potential coming back in behind this, so you can't let your guard down by any stretch of the imagination here toward that area. If we look toward the east, you see west of Greenville here, a bunch of lightning. This storm doesn't have a bunch of wind energy yet, but we'll have to watch it as that moves out toward Madison. But as you see here, again, we have all this electrical energy. You know, that was so significant moments ago around campus there, right at FSU. As you can kind of see the action as it came together there. Saw the warning, saw that electrical, you know, energy coming into the picture. Seeing some brighter pixels on the wind here, upward to 46. I mean, we already got confirmation of that earlier on as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things. Let me jump to the other radar. I do want to see there's a couple tornado warnings in South Carolina right now. You see these here, northeast of Orangeburg. Some pretty strong rotation moving toward I-95 there. So, Clarendon County, not a great situation up that way. I mean, I suppose if some Gator fans just kind of called it a tournament, I don't know that they should, even if they lost today, if they were, you know, in that Conway area maybe and decided maybe they just had to head home and then they got on I-95. Now they could get caught up in a tornado warning after seeing their team lose 11-6 there to East Carolina earlier this afternoon. So, as we go ahead and continue to look at things though here, let's go ahead and look toward Tallahassee with this severe thunderstorm warning in play here. Of course, we're always covering things across the 62 counties. We were on YouTube and on Facebook, Twitch, you know, way ahead of the warning. Twitter, we were trying to be on, but Twitter was like not sending much out there in that time frame when we got the accident to develop there in Tallahassee. But that really, you know, it became a situation where, you know, it was our, you know, we've done it before, run of the mill, you know, lightning, weather delay stream to something much more than that. You know, as we were seeing a very volatile storm come across the FSU campus area, it changed in a heartbeat pretty much to something that was, you know, a lot more than that, where it's becoming, you know, life-threatening, really, truly, you know, life-threatening situation for us caught without shelter with the wind and the lightning coming in. You know, this is not what you want to deal with, obviously, a really serious situation. Let me see how many power outages are in that area. I mean, if everybody is inside, you know, this would be your typical severe thunderstorm warning for Tallahassee. But with, you know, everybody, you know, at the game, thousands of people plus, and I know they gave the warning way, you know, earlier before this warning came out, don't get me wrong, But between that and rush hour, not a good combination. 4,730 customers out in the state of Florida right now, according to Power.us. But Leon County, City of Tallahassee, I need to see if there's a new update. If not, then maybe the winds aren't quite as bad in there. But still, nobody wants to be out in a severe thunderstorm at a sporting event, whether it's in a delay or not. I mean, there are some places that take shelter there, but I must be curious to figure out where everybody was, because there's a concourse in there. But I don't know if everybody was really in there. Maybe there's enough room to get everybody in that concourse, but it would probably be very tight. So, as I'm looking here, a few power outages. Looks like a few folks without power right around West Tennessee Street. But, that's not an overwhelming amount. Just a handful. Toward Tallahassee, we had a few gusts there. We had a 44 at Doak Campbell Stadium at 4:57. At 4:56, we had a Weather Service Tallahassee Love Building measuring a gust of 43 miles an hour. And we had at 5 o'clock FAMU measuring a gust of 45 miles an hour. So, again, trying to keep you ahead of the storm here with this situation. Trying to keep you up to date on exactly what we're dealing with here. Again, this volatile weather setup, this volatile weather scenario. Let me go ahead and keep looking at things here. You see these winds, 47, and that one area of green in here. Let me try to pull some traffic cameras up a little bit further off toward the east. Bear with me. And it's very important to always have multiple ways to get alerts. I mean, if you're relying on Twitter there, /X, and this applies to other platforms as well, from time to time, you might have not been able to get things until it was, later on. I mean, you know about the weather delay, but that's why you always gotta be following multiple platforms here, whether it's my information or even just, you have to have your weather radio on hand. I mean, now that's not necessarily easy. There have been over the years mobile weather radios, but most people aren't using that now. But then you just want to have multiple, weather apps maybe enabled, and just different, methods to receive alerts. So important. Let's go to Appalachia Parkway and Capitol Circle Southeast here. You're going to see the weather situation. Not exactly a fun one. They're twitching the camera around right now. As you see that here, look at that traffic. Look how wet it is. The evening commute really being disrupted here toward Tallahassee, Appalachia Parkway, and Capitol Circle Southeast. So that's kind of storyline there right now. You see all that backup. I mean, just multiple. My goodness. I mean, that is just so much traffic. That's 5 lanes of traffic backed up there, folks, if I'm counting that right. Wow. Between the rain and rush hour, extra people in town for the baseball games. I mean, this is not an ideal situation whatsoever toward Tallahassee as we're looking at things on this Friday, the end of the month. You see all that backup there. Such a mess. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest on what's happening. Just not ideal. Look how quick though that cleared out. I mean, at least they got out of there. I mean, that was, you you have a light, but the backup was substantial, but very quickly cleared out from that shot. So we'll take that. But let's go ahead and move away from that view as more cars start to pile up quickly there at the intersection of the traffic light. Let's go ahead and continue here to track things. You see around eastern Leon County right now, some pretty strong winds with this. 47 miles an hour. And by the way, going back to the baseball game action, the reason we started this stream in the first place, I want to check some of the lightning information. By the way, special weather statement for Bay, Washington, Calhoun. I mean, more action coming in from the west as we've alluded to. Maybe it won't all, or any of it, maybe won't be severe, but doesn't necessarily matter for delays. I mean, we've had 518 there, cloud to cloud strike. As we're looking at things toward 7 miles east-northeast of the stadium area. That's another 30 minutes. I mean, every time you get them within 8 miles, there's been plenty. A lot on my list here from the Leon FSU WeatherStem side. Every time you get one of those, it's 30 minutes. I know they're not cumulative. Don't get me wrong, they never play. But no, what I mean by that is that every time you get one, it resets the clock to 30 minutes. As you're looking there toward Tallahassee, toward the FSU area. So that means at the earliest day you'll be able to play at 5:50, but I don't know if that's going to even happen. As we have more action coming on in, as we've continued to allude to. I mean, I will say that after this one, it may be enough of a break though, because some of this some of this could start to dip more southeast though. From up here, but there may be a break in here enough to get a little going, but then you want to pitch it up just to wind them back down again. What a mess. What an absolute mess. But as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation here, just continuing to give you guys the very latest on the weather situation, trying to keep you up to date. And there's a strong storm there out toward Washington and Bay counties. You have this storm here east, Tallahassee around Greenville, Florida. When the winter do this, I mean, it may be enough to maintain the warning further east we shall see. It's going to be close as we continue to watch it. Okay, more bad news. So now they're thinking this is going to be more of an organized threat here. The Storm Prediction Center and the Weather Services in Jacksonville and Tallahassee. So then they escalated this all the way to a severe thunderstorm watch situation for portions of the area until 11 o'clock. So let's see exactly where that is. I haven't seen the actual counties. It may not be around Tallahassee, but everything's coming out. Even there's some issues with the weather service information too trying to come out. So I'm not 100% sure where that is at this point in time, but part of their areas are covered. Severe thunderstorm watch number 349 it says, but I don't know if that's the right number actually. A lot of dissemination issues here with the weather service information. We're talking about Twitter having issues. As we continue to look here, continue to track. Just going through some things here on the system. Okay, new warning now at 6 o'clock, 6:15, I'm sorry. For portions of Jefferson, Lafayette, Madison, and Taylor now, 60-mile-an-hour wind gust. A possibility as we look further over toward the east. Just continuing to watch that. Okay, that watch, I feel like there's just, I'm not sure where that actually is because there is an issue with watch dissemination here. So I don't know if that actually, I'm starting to think it didn't include our area and they just somehow sent out in the system here a watch that doesn't include any of Jacksonville or Tallahassee, but they put it under their information here by accident with the system. So that's very strange. But again, let me go ahead and that came across here in the, bot alert data. Just checking here on the baseball information. Just very, very heavy rain there 24 minutes ago, looking on Twitter. This is, bad enough, obviously, but just got to keep in mind that this stuff can also happen as we look ahead, toward late August, early September as well. FSU's, football team, their first two games, at home will be during the daytime. When we could still have convection. I mean, hopefully it'll be a quieter day than this, but it'll be either be and or it could be both. I mean, the heat and or the storms, late August, early September, or a hurricane coming, and there's changes to the schedule, but and the like. So that's FSU Alabama and then FSU in their second game there. I believe it's against an FCS opponent. So again, just continuing to check. I know they announced noon for the second game for FSU football this season, 3:30 for the first, late August, Alabama. Could have weather impacting that one too when you have more during the day like this, but not a guarantee, but more likely. Let's go ahead and keep looking here at this here as it moves away from the metro. Moving toward Wakena there, Wasissa. It's not it's not overly impressive here based on, correlating that with the population density. But Madison, Greenville, Lee, Cody, Ebb, Lamont, Nash, Thomas City, Drifton, Wakena, Wasissa, Hanson, Wasissa Springs, Sermons, Shady Grove, Mosley Hall, Chansey. Underneath this warning till 6:15, 60-mile-an-hour wind gust a possibility. Lightning's happening, hail potential, small hail at least is there. I will say there is more of a clearing back behind though, so at this point I think even though could be an issue at some point, I think I take my chances now, and once we get past that 30-minute mark and not having strikes within 8 miles here, I think I try to start getting this going again if I'm the officials involved. So the last strike we had within 8 miles was at 5:25. So let's say we don't have any more than 8 miles here in the stadium, which, for a while, which is possible at this point. Eventually, we're going to have more coming from the northwest. Don't get me wrong, but let's just say, so we don't have any, let's say, but, I say that, I see at 527. There was one within 7 miles, so that's still going to count against us. So now we have to take it from there. So this may still be a few more minutes. So let's say at 535, they say that we end up, not having any more beyond that point within an 8-mile radius. Maybe, around 6:05 or so, we can start to, think about getting things going there, soon after that. Get folks warmed up from about that point on. So that may be what we want to do as we're looking at things and what we're tracking as we're tracking things. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Based on this, I mean, there's more that could come in. Don't get me wrong. This here, though, may not be enough to, if it doesn't, get stronger, it's been getting weaker, I think. And, you can tell. If that gets weaker, that might not be enough to really get the field too wet. I mean, even rain delayed things, I know, with the baseball. But you can see here, we have these storms. They've been problematic. This one especially. But let's say we can get, that 30-minute window without any within 8 miles, and I try to start back and then hope nothing develops in between. It's possible, but I think, otherwise, if we wait too long, you're going to get caught up in the line from the north. That's going to come on in later on. It's going to really push things back. So, I mean, it's kind of something where you have to play it by ear, but this storm here is moving at 20 miles an hour, so in 1 hour, it could be somewhere around there, which it actually could, just be on the edge of the 8-mile radius if it keeps going a little bit with that southerly component. I'm going to back it up to see it is. So that kind of passes us by. Then you might get a window here, or you might get an hour or two where there's just some light rain coming across here and there, which hopefully wouldn't be enough, to delay things here. But it's possible that it could. So we're broadening the view here. There's not a lot to the east, but we're going to have more come in. Again, this stuff from the north is going to come in. Probably more organized than this later on. So that's why you don't want to wait around too long. Probably going to have trouble getting another game in today, Mississippi State Northeastern. But you get this out of the way, and you hope this stuff doesn't develop too much back out here. And you try to just warm things up and try to get going there as we look ahead and toward the timeline. So that's how I would play it. Doesn't mean it'll play out like that, obviously, but they canceled the warning for Leon, but it's continuing until 6:15 to the east there for Jefferson, Lafayette, Madison, and Taylor counties. Got some hail upticking a little bit here with this. Didn't have a whole bunch of those signatures right around the radar, which, I mean, it might have been obscuring a little, but I don't think it was maturing for the hail as much. You see the energy though, so high. These values, some, quite a bit of supercell composite, even, goodness, and even significant tornado parameter. We're lucky. As far as I can tell, that didn't spin up a tornado there around Tallahassee. With those type of parameters around it and the way that developed, it wouldn't have been impossible that could have happened. But I don't think you saw a little bit of uptick in rotation, but it wasn't overwhelming there. So. But we're watching this warning. This is over areas that are a little less populated, and with it not being the most overwhelming signature, we'll probably just leave the radar up and wrap coverage for the time being. We'll leave it up for the delay as well, out toward Tallahassee as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. Let me see if I can get any more updates on the FSU baseball situation right now as we're monitoring things. 5:31 on your Friday. I don't think we ever had a watch, even though it showed it in our system and never got issued for any of our counties. So